Last revision class, we started the discussion on vector differential calculus. In that, we have seen some basic definitions and terminologies like scalar fields, vector fields, okay, and some differential operators like gradient, divergence, curl, Laplacian, okay, and some applications of gradient like unit normal vector, level surfaces, angle between the surfaces, and directional derivative. Okay, so we'll continue the discussion. Okay, today. So before that, okay, I'll share the screen. Okay. So now the next topic is about potential function. Potential function. Okay. So what do you mean by a potential function? If f bar is a if you are given a vector function f bar, if there exists a function f, if there exists a scalar function f such that gradient of that scalar function equal to the given vector function f bar, then the scalar function is said to be a potential function of the given vector function. Okay, in that case the vector field f bar is said to be a conservative field. Okay, so when f is given, when a scalar function is given, okay, when you apply del on scalar function, that will be mapped to a vector function. Okay, f is mapped to f bar under the mapping del. Okay, del can always convert the scalar functions to a vector function. Now the question is the other way. If a vector function is given, can you find a scalar function such that del f is equal to f bar? Okay, so that may not be possible every time. Under certain cases only, the given vector function will have a potential function. Okay, so when f bar will have a potential function, it is stated through a theorem. Whenever f bar is irrotational, f bar will have a potential function. What do you mean by irrotational function? When f bar is said to be irrotational? Last class we discussed it. When
Curl of f bar equals 0.
wait, 0 bar.
0 bar.
When curl f bar equal to 0 bar, f bar is irrotational. Whenever f bar is irrotational, f bar will have a potential function. That means there exists a scalar function f such that del f equal to f bar. Okay. So the following statements are equivalent. Whenever you say f bar is having potential function, that means there is a scalar potential for f bar satisfying this condition. So whenever there is a scalar function, whenever there is a scalar potential, that means f bar is a conservative field. Conservative field is nothing but curl f bar equal to 0. Curl f bar is nothing, 0 bar is nothing but irrotational vector. So if one of the statement is true, then all the remaining statements also follows, because all these 5 statements are equivalent. Okay, if you know one statement is true, automatically remaining 4 also will follows. Okay, then the next question is how to find out this conservative potential function. Okay, so this I demonstrated through an example here. A vector function is given. You're asked to find out a potential function if exists. Okay, so how do you check whether it has a potential function or not? Through these equivalent statements. There exists a scalar potential whenever curl f bar is 0 bar. So I computed curl f bar and noticed that curl f bar is 0 bar. I think I somewhere here missing. Okay, curl f bar is 0 bar. So because curl f bar is 0 bar, f bar will have a potential function. F bar having potential function means there exists a scalar function f such that del f equal to f bar. But what is del f? I dou f by dou x plus j dou f by dou y plus k dou f by dou z, which is equal to default notation for f bar is f1 I bar plus f2 j bar plus f3 k bar. Two vectors are equal if and only if the corresponding components are equal. So dou f by dou x must be equal to f1. F1 is nothing but the first component, y square minus 2xyz cube, and dou f by dou y equal to f2, second component, 3 plus 2xy minus x square yz, and dou f by dou z equal to third component f3, that is nothing but 6z cube minus 3x square by z square. Okay, so now after equating each derivative, our unknown function is f. So using these three equations, you have to find out the unknown function f. So take the first equation, dou f by dou x equal y square minus 2xy z cube. So when dou f by dou x equal to this one, what will be f? That means integrate with respect to x. So when you are integrate with respect to x, because this is dou by dou x, partial derivative, when you are integrating, treat the remaining variables as constants. So just integrate the right hand side function with respect to x. So y square to be treated as constant. Y square integration with respect to x is xy square minus integration with respect to x is x square by 2. 2 gets cancelled. X square yz cube plus, because we are treating y and z as constants, so that so we have to add an arbitrary constant. That arbitrary constant can contain y and z also. So instead of adding arbitrary constant, we are adding arbitrary function. Okay, so this is f. So in which phi is unknown. To find out phi, we are going to use the remaining two. So when f is in this form, when you differentiate f with respect to y, you should get 3 plus 2x plus x square minus x square z. That is shown in the next page. See, when f equal to this one, differentiate this with respect to y. Xy square derivative is 2xy minus x square, y derivative is 1 z cube plus dou f by dou y. But this must be equal to f2. Dou f by dou y must be equal to f2. What is f2? 3 plus 2x minus x square z cube. So equate these two. Equate these two. So when I equated these two, 2x gets cancelled. Minus x square z cube minus x square z cube cancelled. So dou f by dou y is equal to 3. When dou f by dou y equal to 3, what could be phi? Phi is already function of y and z. Now dou f by dou y equal to 3 means phi could be integrate with respect to y by treating the other variable as constant. Okay. So it could be 3y plus what is other variable? Z, right? So
Z.
it could be some psi of z, some psi of z. Now you substitute this phi here. You substitute this phi here. F. So f equal to xy square minus x square yz cube plus, in place of phi, 3y plus psi of z. Okay. Now when you differentiate this with respect to z, that should be equal to f3. So I differentiated this with respect to z. So this is 0. Z cube derivative is 3x square by z square with minus 3y derivative with respect to z is 0. Psi of z derivative with respect to z is psi dash of z. But this must be equal to f3. So what is f3? This one, 6z cube minus 3x square by z square. So equate these two. When you equate these two, minus 3x square y z square plus psi dash of z equal to 6z cube minus 3x square y z. So minus 3x square y z square gets cancelled. Psi dash of z equal to 6z cube. Therefore, psi of z equal to integrate with respect to z. You will get 6 by 4 z power 4 or 3 by 2 z power 4. So substitute that xi here, substitute that xi here, and substitute that phi here. So what do you get? F equal to xy square minus x square y z cube plus 3y plus 3 by 2 z power 4 plus some arbitrary constant. Okay, you can add now some arbitrary constant. So you can give infinitely many values to c. So by default, if you give c equal to 0, you get the simplest form of the potential function. Okay. Now additionally, if you're asked to find out if some condition is given like this, find if some condition is given on this. If some condition on f is given like this, then you can find out this c value by using this condition. Substitute x equal to 1, y equal to 0, and z equal to 1, and you'll get c value. Okay, so this I have given additionally after finding the potential function. Additionally, I have given condition on phi, like initial value problem, initial condition. Okay, I got a particular value of c, then that is the answer. Okay, if this condition is not given, this is the answer. This is the answer. Okay, so in general, a conservative field or a conservative field or an irrotational field can have infinitely many potential functions. Okay, and do you ECB and EEE students, do you recall this procedure with any other method that you have seen in recent days? This kind of method, where did you see? ECB and EEE students. When I was discussing this method in NTTC, I said this method will be this kind of technique we are going to use in second year. I said, did you use this technique in the second year? in mathematical analysis? You didn't remember? Where are you in mathematical analysis? ECB, EEA. Are you hearing me? Do you hear me or not? Everyone? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are there any ECB and EEA students?
Yes,
There
sir.
then respond. Did you say where are you in mathematical analysis? I'm not asking this question. Till what topic it mathematical analysis is completed? Complex function theory started.
Yes, sir.
Analytic functions or
No, sir.
analytic functions not started.
Just started, sir.
Oh, just started. Where? Which one? Triple E?
Just introduction, sir.
Keshav sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think Triple E. I think sir must have completed Triple E. Where are you? Triple E students?
Introduction, sir.
Still in introduction. Okay. Okay. I think 2.5 units syllabus is over. No, it is not over. Third unit half portion is not over yet.
No.
Okay. So okay, fine. So you will see this technique when you are finding the conjugate harmonic function. F of z equal to u plus iv. You know that the complex function form is f of z equal to u plus iv. You remember?
Yes, sir.
So if f of z equal to u plus iv is an analytic function, u and v are said to be will be harmonic functions. What do you mean by harmonic? Laplacian will be 0. Dou square u by dou x square plus dou square u by dou y square equal to 0. Dou square v by dou x square plus dou square u by dou y square equal to 0. Okay, when u and v are harmonic, then u is said to be conjugate harmonic of v and v is said to be conjugate harmonic of u. Okay, so the question will be, if u is given, you are asked to find out conjugate harmonic v, or if v is given, you will be asked to find its conjugate harmonic u. Okay, so in finding the conjugate harmonic function, you will be using a similar kind of technique. Okay, so just keep it in mind. Okay, so same technique you will be seeing in finding the conjugate harmonic function. Next. Okay, so there are some identities. You can go through this. There are some 8, I think 11 identities I have discussed in the class. Okay, so this is a linearity property. Divergence of a bar plus b bar is divergence of a bar plus divergence of b bar. Okay, so it is just using the definition of the divergence. I said divergence is sigma is running over I and x. So this is a definition of I bar dot dou by dou x of whatever the vector function you see, and apply the derivative. Derivative of sum equal to sum of derivatives. Then apply the distributive law. A bar dot b bar plus c bar equal to a bar dot b bar plus a bar dot c bar. Then separate the sigmas. Then each one is nothing but divergence. Is it okay? So when you replace a dot with cross, you'll get another result like curl of a bar plus b bar equal to curl a bar plus curl b bar. Similar result. I just replaced cross dot with cross. And this is very important result, frequently used in solving problems. Divergence of phi a bar equal to del phi dot a bar plus phi into del dot a bar. Divergence of a vector function. Phi is a scalar, a bar is a vector function, phi into a bar is a divergence of a vector function must be scalar. Del phi is vector, a bar is vector, vector dot vector is scalar. Divergence of a bar is a scalar, scalar into scalar is scalar, scalar plus scalar is scalar. So this expression is meaningful. So again, to prove this result, I used the definition of divergence. Then I used UV formula like this: dou phi by dou x into a bar plus phi into dou a bar by dou x. Then I applied a distributive law. Okay. Then after applying distributive law, I just made a modification here. Instead of writing the scalar here, I wrote the scalar here. because you know scalar can be placed anywhere. A bar dot k bar equal to k a bar dot b bar equal to k into a bar dot b bar. So then what I did, so I took this phi outside because of this property, and the sigma is running over I and x, therefore I can take phi outside the sigma also. So that is what I did here. So using distributive law, okay, this dot a bar is taken out, okay. So then sigma I dot dou phi by dou x is del phi dot a bar plus phi is taken outside. So sigma I bar dot dou a bar by dou x is del dot a bar. So that is grad phi dot a bar plus phi into del dot a bar. Okay. So when I replace dot with cross, you will get one more result called del cross. Okay. It is complete exactly similar to that of third result. Okay. Next, divergence of a bar cross b bar equal to b bar dot curly a bar minus a bar dot curly b bar. This is also useful result. This is also proved in a similar way using this vector triple product technique. You just go through. So it is just again applying the definition, finding the derivative, then applying the distributive law, separating the summations, rearranging the terms here. Okay, and again rewriting in the form of a curl. Okay. Similarly here also, okay, I used some basic formulas like this. Okay, so just go through, all these are all understandable once you are good with definitions. Because curl of f bar is sigma I bar cross dou by dou x of f bar. Instead of f bar you are having a bar cross b bar. Again some rearrangements, and I brought to this form. You need to practice these results in examination point of view also, because they may be asked to prove these results. Okay, so practice is necessary. Again, see, this is another result. Okay, so these two are less used in applications point of view. Curly a bar cross b bar and del of a bar dot b bar have less applications, but they are important in identities. In proof point of view, you may be asked to prove these results, and this is very much useful. Okay, even Viva also they may ask you what is del dot del phi. Del dot del phi is del square phi, divergence of phi. Okay, so divergence of gradient of phi is Laplacian. Okay, so this I proved. Again, this is a simple derivative calculus. Okay, curl of for any vector scalar function phi, curl of grade phi is always 0 bar. Previous one is delta divergence of grade. This is curl of grade. Divergence of grade is Laplacian, but curl of grade is null vector. That means del phi is always irrotational. Therefore, del phi is always irrotational. Okay, so there are n number of ways we can ask the Viva questions in your mid exams, because you have lot of theory. Okay, on inverse Laplace transforms, vector calculus, vector differential calculus, as well as vector integral calculus. Okay, so this is also a very important result and useful result. Okay, particularly useful in objective type questions. You may be given some long expression for phi, and you may be asked to find out curl of grade phi, del cross del phi. If you remember this result, you can simply put the answer 0 bar instead of computing del phi and then to compute curl. Okay, so similarly divergence of curly a bar is 0. Okay, that means curly a bar is always, whenever the divergence is 0, what is that vector called?
Solenoid.
Solenoid. Therefore, curly a bar is always solenoidal. Curly a bar is always solenoidal. So again, it is useful in bit point of view. You may be given some long expression for a bar, and if you're asked to find out divergence of curly a bar without doing any calculations, using this identity, you can simply opt 0. Okay, and this is also quite useful. Curl of curly a bar. Curl of curly a bar is del of del dot a bar minus del square a bar. Del of del dot a bar minus del square a bar. And I have given several problems. Okay, n number of problems I have solved using these vector identities. Okay, identities are useful to solve the problems quickly. Okay, and these are the small results we derived in the previous at the starting of the vector differential calculus. Like del r is r bar by r, del f of r is f dash of r into del r, del dot r bar is 3, therefore r bar is not solenoidal. Del cross r bar is always 0 bar, therefore r bar is always irrotational. Del square r is 2 by r. Laplacian. This also, this I think we derived here. Del square r. Del square r is 2 by r. We derived here. How I derived this one? Using this identity. Which one? Del square can be written as del dot del r. Del square can be written as del dot del r, and del r is nothing but r bar by r using this. And r bar by r can be written as 1 by r into r bar. 1 bar is a scalar, r bar is a vector. It is in the form phi into a bar. And you know divergence of phi a bar. Divergence of phi a bar is del phi dot a
Del
phi
phi dot
into
a bar
del.
plus phi into del a.
So del 1 by r dot r bar plus 1 by r into del dot r bar. So del 1 by r is, again you can use this formula. Del f of r is f dash of r into del r. So 1 by r derivative is minus 1 by r square into del r dot r bar plus 1 by r into del dot r bar is 3. Now del r is r bar by r. Del r is r bar by r. So r square into r is r cube. R bar dot r bar is r square. What is r bar dot r bar? X square plus y square plus z square. Xi bar plus yj bar plus zk bar dot xi bar plus yj bar plus zk bar is x square plus y square plus z square. That is nothing but modulus of r bar whole square, r square plus 3 by r. So when you simplify, you'll get 2 by r. So we derived the result that del square of r bar is 2 by r. So after that we have we did what is this? Okay, I think I wrote a summary of this formulas again, I think. Okay, gradient, divergence, curl, Laplacian, and after that some results on dot product, cross product. Because these may be useful in proving the identities. I think this slide must be before the proof of the identities. I must have put this. Okay, so these are the 11 vector identities. 1 to 11 are identities. From 12 onwards, these are small results which we derived for our convenience to solve the problems easily. I think better you remember all these identities. After that, we have proved several results using these vector identities. See, del square f of r. Previously, we proved del square of r. Now, generalization to del square of r is del square of f of r. Okay, so it is derived in a similar manner using the identities. You just go through. Okay, as a particular case, if you have f of r equal to r power n. Okay, so using this result. Okay, if I differentiate r power n 2 times, you will get this one. Okay, and simplification you will get like this. See, 2 times differentiation is n into n minus 1 into r power n minus 2 plus 2 by r into f dash of r is n into r power n minus 1. So when I simplify this, finally you will see that n into n plus 1 into r power n minus 2. So see, these are all some one or the other, either one application of one identity or combination of 2 or more identities. Okay, so these are all, I think we discussed some gate examination problems also. Okay, so I think these are all different. See, some gate problem. Okay, so del log r is 1 by r into del r because of del f of r formula. Del r is r bar by r. Okay, so r bar by r. Okay, so again this gets cancelled. Del r is nothing but 3. So if you remember the identities, you can solve the problems very easily. Okay, and another question asked in gate examinations. Okay, so all these are all applications of vector identities only. You just go through. Okay, several problems are discussed. Okay, and all these are all easily understandable once you understand, once you are remembering the formulas, definitions, and notations. Okay, and identities. Okay, just go through them and see how these results are obtained, because every step is written in detail with side reasoning also. Okay, so these are problems. Now next topic is unit 5, vector integral calculus. So again extensively we have discussed this topic in NTTC for ECB and EEE students. Okay, so CSE students can just have a quick look on this. Okay, before NTTC, before this integral calculus, you have seen these kinds of integrations. One is definite integration, that is integrating a real valued function, real function from one point to another point, A to B. A is always a smaller value, B is a bigger value. You are integrating a smaller value to a bigger value. So smaller to bigger means it is from left hand to right hand side. So we'll be integrating over a line. So this interval A to B is nothing but a part of a real line. So it is just a line segment. Your integration is definite integration is nothing but integrating over a line segment from left to right. Integrating a line segment from left to right. Whereas double integration also we have seen in first semester. Double integral, triple integral also we have learned in first semester. So double integral is integrating a function of two variables. Function of two variables means where the domain lies, input is x comma y, two-dimensional. So two-dimensional point lies in two-dimensional plane, which is nothing but xy plane. So the collection of all inputs forms a region like this. Region is nothing but a plane figure. Okay, some plane figure like this in some area. It can be bounded area or unbounded area. Okay. Bounded area means having finite area. Unbounded area means having infinite area. So if you are trying to integrate a real valued function of two variables over a plane region in xy plane, that is called double integral. Similarly, if you are integrating a function of three variables over a solid kind of region in three-dimensional space, that is called triple integral. So in all these cases, these are all real valued functions. That means input is one-dimensional or two-dimensional or three-dimensional, but the output is always real. Output f of x equal x square, f of x comma y equal x plus y, f of x y z equal x into y into z, like that. Okay, where the output is always real, but the input can be one-dimensional or two-dimensional or three-dimensional. So these three things are telling how to integrate over a line, how to integrate over a plane, how to integrate over a solid. Next topic is line integral. It will tell how to integrate a function from one point to another point through a curve in the space. Through a curve in the space. Okay, like this. Okay, so actually we should call it as a curve integral. We should call it as a curve integral. But conventionally it is called as a line integral. And ECB and Triple E students also listen carefully again, because same line integral concept you are going to see in complex integration in mathematical analysis. Okay, we should call it as a contour integration. So where in the space when you are integrating over a curve, orientation must be mentioned. Orientation must be mentioned. Okay, from where to where. Okay, you cannot say 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 2. You don't think that 1 1 1 is smaller value and 2 2 2 is a smaller value. Two-dimensionally, three-dimensionally, you cannot compare 2 points. You cannot say which point is bigger, which point is smaller. So you should specify, not like this point to this point through a path. Endpoints are important. The path joining the endpoints are also important if you want to integrate a function over a curve. So instead of integrating over a curve, if you're integrating over a surface, that is called surface integral. Double integral is telling about integrating over a plane, but the surface integral telling integrating over a surface. So it's not necessarily a flat one. It can be curved surface also. Okay. Therefore, this definite integral is a special case of line integral. Double integral is a special case of surface integral. Okay. So if the curve is lying on x-axis, so that line integral is nothing but definite integral. If the surface is lying on xy plane, that surface integral becomes a double integral. Okay, so these are all generalized versions of this definite integral and double integral. Okay, so before going through curve integrals, okay, we have to know certain kinds of curves. So one is and these curves are also you will see in mathematical analysis also. Okay, these two are called non-simple curves because they are non-simple. Why? Because they are having self-intersections. Whenever there is a self-intersection, they are not simple. Okay, if there are no self-intersections, they are called simple curves. So this is a simple curve. This is also a simple curve. Moreover, this is an open curve. This is a closed curve. Why? Because this is open curve. Initial and end points are different. Therefore, it is an open curve. Whereas here initial and end points are same, therefore this is called as a closed curve. So this is simple open curve, this is simple closed curve. Okay, and when some orientation is given like this, then they are called simple oriented curve, simple oriented open curve. This is simple oriented closed curve. So this is a closed curve, closed curve, closed curve. Okay, so in case of an open curve, So orientation is quite clear, either from A to B through the curve C or from B to A through the curve C. So this is self-explanatory. Whereas for closed curves, okay, you have to specify what kind of orientation. If it is a circle, you can specify like anti-clockwise or clockwise. But for a arbitrary closed curve, you cannot use the word called anti-clockwise or clockwise. Okay, you should say negative orientation or positive orientation. Okay, what do you mean by negative orientation? What do you mean by positive orientation? Positive orientation means when you are walking along the simple closed curve, the inside region to be your left hand side. Inside region I am telling why, because by default we are seeing this as a boundary to the closed region. Actually this is a boundary to the inside region as well as to the outside region. But if you are considering this curve as a boundary to the inside region, interior region, okay, so to which region you are considering C as a boundary, that region must be to your left hand side when you are walking along the boundary. Okay, so by default I am considering this interior region is having a boundary C. Therefore when I am walking along the curve C, this region is under consideration, that must be to your left hand side. So wherever you are walk, your region is always to your left hand side. Therefore this kind of orientation is called positive orientation. Whereas here your region is to your right hand side, therefore this is called negative orientation. So when you see anti-clockwise direction is positive because inside region which we are considering is to my left hand side when I am walking along. Therefore anti-clockwise direction is nothing but a positive orientation. I think this is very much important for triple E students also. I think when you are writing drawing the circuits, I think positive orientation you will draw, right? And negative orientation means your region must be to your right hand side. Okay, so after that we have seen how to find out line integral. There are different ways of finding the line integral. Okay, so that I have demonstrated through a tree diagram that I will show you now. Okay, so the curve can be in the space or it can be in the plane. If the curve is in the space, generally it will have parametric representation like this. Okay, three-dimensional curve, space curve can have a parametric representation like this: x equal to x of t, y equal to y of t, z equal to z of t, where t varies from t1 to t2. Or this is a parametric representation. If you want to write a vector representation, that is nothing but r bar equal to xi bar plus yj bar plus zk bar, where x, y, z are in terms of t varying from t1 to t2. Okay, so how to compute line integral for a space curve? So write a x, y, z in terms of t. Then the equivalent formula for ds is modulus of dr bar by dt into dt, and limits will be from t1 to t2. Okay, that means this is a line integral. This is converted into a definite integral. See, a to b. This is a scalar function of single variable, scalar function of single variable. So this is entire thing is a scalar function of single variable from lower limit to upper limit is nothing but definite integration. So this is giving a transformation from line integral to definite integral. Through definite integral, you can compute the value of the line integral. So how to find out modulus of dr by dt? I have demonstrated here. R bar is like this. Dr bar by dt is component wise differentiation with respect to t. Dx by dt I bar plus dy by dt j bar plus dz by dt k bar. Or dx by dt other notation is x dot, y dot, z dot. And modulus of dr bar by dt is nothing but under root of x dot square plus y dot square plus z dot square. Therefore, this definite integral is nothing but f from t1 to t2 under root of x dot square plus y dot square plus z dot square dt. In particular, if f is 1, if the integrand is 1, integral 1 ds gives the length of the arc. So integral 1 ds gives the length of the arc. So under root of this is 1, this is this formula. So if you want to find out the length of the arc, this is you just use the formula. But the discussion is not on this general formula for the line integral. The discussion is mainly on the particular form of the line integral called work integral. Okay, work integral is given like this. Okay, so this is some limit definition of this line integral and so on. So where? Okay. So this is what I was telling. So work integral is a special case. F bar is a vector function. T bar is a t cap as unit tangential vector to the curve. So if you want to, okay. So if you want to move an object from point A to point B along C, okay, then you have to integrate the force component along the tangential vector, tangential direction from along the curve C from the point A to point B. So unit tangent vector formula is given by like this. So if r bar is a vector, okay, t bar is the tangent vector. If r bar is a position vector, which is representing the curve equation, then if you differentiate with respect to t, then that is nothing but the tangent vector to the curve at any point at t. And if you are dividing this with its magnitude, you will get a unit tangent vector. Okay, so some modifications we have done here. T cap is t bar by mod t bar. T bar is dr bar by dt, modulus of dr bar by dt. ds is we have seen modulus of dr bar by dt into dt. These two gets cancelled. So this is the formula for the work integral, work done. Or simply you may write it as f bar dot dr bar, f bar dot dr bar. When f bar equal to f1 a bar plus f2 j bar plus f3 k bar, r bar is dxi bar plus yj bar plus zk bar. What is dr bar? Dxi bar plus dyj bar plus dzk bar. So if I take the dot product of these two, you will get f bar dot dr bar. That is I bar dot I bar is 1, f1 dx plus f2 dy plus f3 dz. So f bar dot dr bar, another notation is f1 dx plus f2 dy plus f3 dz. f1 dx plus f2 dy plus f3 dz. Okay. So for a space curve, use this formula to find out the compute work done. For a plane curve, either use this formula or use this formula. For a plane curve, use this formula. But the advantage of plane curve is one of the variable will be 0. Suppose if the curve is on the xy plane, if the curve is on the xy plane, z will be 0. Therefore, dz will be 0. You will have only two variables. If the curve is on xz plane, y will be 0. When y is 0, dy will be 0. So this will be 0. Again, we'll see two variables. If the curve is on yz plane, x will be 0. When x is 0, dx will be 0. This will vanish. You'll see only two variables. Okay. So when if you have a plane curve, okay, so one of the term will miss. You will have only two variables, and eliminate one of the variable using the curve equation and evaluate the integral. But if that you do, if it is an open curve, but if it is a closed curve, you have another theorem called Green's theorem. Use that theorem. Okay, so this is some problem. If you have a space curve, I told you to use this formula, f bar dot dr bar by dt. Okay, so just go through. It is self-explanatory. Initially, I found the line equation using the three-dimensional. Then I found the parametric forms. Then I got the limits for t. Then I converted everything in terms of t. Once you have r bar in terms of t, find out dr bar by dt by differentiating component wise. Then write x, y, z in f bar also in terms of t, because x equal to 2t, y equal to t, and z equal to 3t. So convert everything in terms of t. Find out f bar dot dr bar by dt. T limits are from 0 to 1. Okay. Why t limits are from 0 to 1? Because y equal to t, y varying from 0 to 1. Because y is varying from 0 to 1, y equal to t. So t is also varying from 0 to 1. Or if you want to say z limits from 0 to 3. Z is nothing but 3t. 3t varying from 0 to 3 means t varying from 0 to 1. So whatever the variable you say, you will get the same limits for t. So substitute all this simplified expression here and integrate from 0 to 1, you will get the line integral. So this is how you do when the curve is in the space. Use this formula. But when the curve is in the plane, okay, when the curve is in the plane, these are all space curves. These are all space curves. These are all space curves. See, when the curve is in the plane, you can use the second approach. You can use this approach. Okay. So here, this is a classic example to understand the concept of line integral over a plane curve. So I asked you to integrate over three curves. C1 is a straight line, C2 is a parabola, C3 is a piecewise smooth curve consisting of two line segments from O to 0, 0 to 1, 0 and 1, 1, 0 to 1, 1. Along C1 first we have seen. C1 is a line joining from 0, 0 to 1, 1. It is nothing but y equal to x. So when it is y equal to x, dy equal to dx, f bar is given as yi bar plus xj bar. So either you convert y in terms of x or write x in terms of y. I would like to write y in terms of x, therefore I have written x limits. So x is varying from 0 to 1. If you want to write y limits also you write accordingly. See the endpoints of y limits, initial and endpoint. Accordingly, orientation is also important. Okay. So f1 dx plus f2 dy, because there is no f3 dz. F3 dz is not there. Why? Because it is lying on xy plane. On xy plane z is 0. Z is 0 means dz is 0. Therefore, there is no third component. F1 dx plus f2 dy. F1 is y, f2 is minus x, dx, dy is dx. Okay. So then I converted y in terms of x. So everything is in terms of x. I have written x limits 0 to 1. So first path is 0. In a similar way, instead of C1, I took C2. C2 is nothing but y equal to x square. Y equal to x square means dy equal to 2x dx. Again, x is varying from 0 to 1. F1 dx plus f2 dy is this one. I replaced y with x square. Replaced y with x square. Okay. Dy. What is dy? 2x dx. See, dy is 2x dx. So everything is in terms of x. X limits from 0 to 1. Integrate, you will get this value. Okay. Similarly, if you want to find integrate over the third curve consisting of two line segments. Integrating over two line segments is nothing but integrate over each line segment and add these two. So you have to do it in two parts. Okay, on C31, on one line segment, one line integral, on another line segment, another line integral. And find out those two line integrals and add, you will get -1. Okay. So what is most important is, you will notice that first line integral is 0, second line integral is -1/3, third line integral is -1. That means this line integral is changing when you are changing the path. So this gives an idea that this line integration is in general path dependent. That means when you are changing the path, the line integration is also changing. So not just initial endpoints are matters. The path joining the initial and endpoints are also important. When you change the path, the value of the line integral also may change. Therefore, we can conclude that the line integral is path dependent in general. So the line integral is path dependent. Okay, somebody may ask you, is the line integral is path dependent? Yes, in general it is yes. And immediately one can ask, when line integral is path independent? When line integral is path independent, that was discussed in the next class. Okay, so line integral is path independent in a conservative field. In a conservative field. What do you mean by conservative field? When a field will be conservative?
Curl f bar 0.
So whenever curl f bar is 0 bar, it is conservative. What is the advantage of conservative field?
A potential function.
It will have potential function. Therefore, you can write f bar equal to del phi. You can write f bar equal to del phi. Therefore, now you see. There are some examples. Okay, I think verification of Green's theorem. In the path dependency, where is path independency? Path independency. Okay. So whenever you have a conservative field, f bar is a potential function. That means f bar equal to del phi. Therefore, I can replace f bar with del phi. But what is del phi? I dou phi by dou x plus j dou phi by dou y plus k dou phi by dou z. dr bar is dxi bar plus dy by j bar plus dzk bar. When you take the dot product of these two, you will get dou phi by dou x into dx plus dou phi by dou y into dy plus dou phi by dou z into dz. And this expression is nothing but d phi, total derivative. And integral of derivative is nothing but the function from a to b. What is a? Endpoint of the curve, origin initial point. B is the endpoint of the curve. So phi from a to b. Therefore, this is nothing but upper limit minus lower limit phi of b minus phi of a. Therefore, line integral f bar dot dr bar equal phi of b minus phi of a, irrespective of the path joining a to b. So there is no involvement of the path. It is always depending on the endpoints. So when you have a field like this, if it is a conservative field, it doesn't matter you are taking this path or this path or this path or this path. Integration over all these paths are going to be same, because integration is path independent because it is a conservative field. Okay, so for a conservative field, you can simply find out the potential function and find out the answer. But if it is a simple closed curve, if it is a simple closed curve, what happens? Initial point will be equal to end point. That means A equal to B. For a closed curve, A equal to B. Therefore, phi of A minus phi of A equal to what? 0. Therefore, the line integral is 0 in a simple closed curve in a conservative field. So, if you are given a conservative field and if you are asked to find out the line integral over a simple closed curve, no need to do anything. Simply answer is 0. So when some function is given and if you're asked to find out the line integral, first you find out whether del cross f bar equal to 0 bar or not. If it is 0 bar and further curve is closed curve, simply answer is 0. If it is an open curve, find its potential function and simply find out phi of u minus phi of u, you will get the answer. Okay. So again, the same problem, whatever I discussed previously to find out the potential function, same function I took here and we computed the potential function here by using the previous technique. So this is the potential function. Then I substituted, I used this potential function phi of v minus phi of a. See, phi of b, phi of 1 1 minus phi of 0 0 0. You will get the answer. Okay. So that is how you will find out. Okay. So this is another example. So last one is Green's theorem. Okay. So if you have a simple closed curve in xy plane, if you have a simple closed curve in xy plane like this, z equal to 0, when z equal to 0, dz is 0, we will have only f1 dx plus f2 dy. F bar dot dr bar is f1 dx plus f2 dy only. F3 dz 0. That line integral can be computed through this double integral. Okay, double integral over R. What is R? R is a region inside this simple closed curve. Do you see the orientation of the C? What is this orientation called?
Positive.
Positive orientation. By default, if orientation is not mentioned, you have to give the positive orientation. Okay. So line integral over a positively oriented simple curve in xy plane is nothing but the double integral over the plane region which is inside the closed curve. So line integral f1 dx plus f2 dy is nothing but double integral dou f2 by dou x minus dou f1 by dou y dy dx or dx dy. So this is a theorem which establishes the relation between line integral and the double integral. Okay. So some problems are given. So this is a circular region. Its boundary is a circle. Okay, what is the radius? Radius is 4 by root pi. X square plus y square equal r square is there. So instead of using the line integral techniques, what we did, we simply converted into double integral. Always remember, f1 is dx coefficient, f2 is dy coefficient. Don't say that first one is f1, second one is f2. No, sometimes it may be in the written reverse order. Always consider dy coefficient is f2, dx coefficient is f1. Okay. So here dx coefficient is f1, dy coefficient is f2. So dou f2 by dou x is 2 minus dou f1 by dou y is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So what is double integral 1 dy dx? You know from first semester, double integral 1 gives the area. So I don't need to evaluate the double integral through limits. I can directly find out because it is a regular region, circular region we know the formula. So simply apply the formula for the circular region. We know pi r square, pi into r square is 16 by pi. Pi gets cancelled, answer is 16. Is that okay? Similarly, another problem. You have a triangular region. If you want to find out the line integral, you have to find out the line integral over 3 line segments. Instead of finding 3 line integrals and add, simply convert into double integral using Green's theorem. Why I am using Green's theorem? Again, it is a simple closed curve. Remember, Green's theorem to be applied only on simple closed curves. So simply find out dou f2 by dou x minus dou f1 by dou y. Apply the limits. When you write dy by dx, you have to draw a line parallel to y-axis. Did I do any mistake? See, I have written dy dx here. No. See, I have written dy dx here, but later I changed the limits. See, I have written from dy dx to dx dy. Your limits depends upon this order. If you are writing dx dy, x limits must be in terms of y. Many books don't write this correctly. Always remember, x limits must be in terms of the remaining variables. X limits must be in terms of y. Last limits must be constant. If you are writing dy dx order, y limits must be in terms of x. X limits must be constant. For dy dx order, you have to draw a line parallel to y axis. For dx dy order, you have to draw a line parallel to x axis. Whatever the first variable you see, you have to draw a line parallel to that variable. So for dx dy order, I have taken a line parallel to x axis. See where it is entering and leaving. It is entering through y axis. When it is entering through y axis, on y axis, what is x value? On y axis, x value is always 0. And it is always leaving through straight line. What is this line equation? Line equation is x plus y equal to 1. I want x value, therefore x value is 1 minus y. 1, so x limits are from 0 to 1 minus y. And what are y limits? Look at the minimum and maximum values. Minimum, this region lower starting from 0, y equal to 0. This region is ending with y equal to 1. So y varies from 0 to 1. So once you have the limits, you know how to integrate. When you are integrating with respect to one variable, remaining variables to be treated as constant. So integrate y with respect to x. That means y into x. Substitute these limits. So it is a repeated kind of integration. Substitute these limits and simplify. You will get this answer. Okay. So remaining problems are also like this. Again, it is a simple closed curve consisting of 4 line segments. Instead of finding 4 line integrals, you do it on a rectangular region. You know, for a rectangular region, all the limits are going to be constants. I think this is a gate examination problem. This is the gate exam problem. Okay. So x varies from 1 by root 3 to 2 by root 3. Y varies from 1 to 3. So these are the limits. So simply use the Green's theorem and get the value. Again, this is also another gate problem. Okay. This is a region where you see this. This is a region. Simple closed curve. Because it is a simple closed curve in xy plane, you can convert into Green's theorem. But choosing the order is to be done carefully. If you take dy dx order, here entering through line, leaving through line. But here entering through circle, leaving through circle. So dy dx order is not suggestible, because if you take dy dx order, you have to partition the region into 2 parts at this stage. You have to find out one double integral here. You have to find out another double integral here. Add these two. You remember, on change of order of integration, this kind of problem is there. To avoid work, to reduce the work, instead of taking dy dx order, if you take dx dy order, see, always entering through line, leaving through curve, entering through line, leaving through curve. Therefore, dx dy order, you don't need to split the region. So simply take dx dy order. But here, fortunately, this whole calculation becoming constant. Because this whole calculation is becoming constant, we don't need to write down the limits also. So whether you write dy dx or dx dy order, double integral 1 gives the area. And you know, this area, it's a simple mensuration, right? Rectangle. This area is a union of rectangular area and a semicircular area. Use those formulas and substitute. But in general, if this is a non-zero, then wisely choose the limits of integration by properly choosing dy dx order or dx dy order. Okay. So this is another application of Green's theorem. So like that, this is one formula to compute the area bounded as simple closed curve. One formula to find out the area is through the double integral. Double integral 1 dx dy gives the area. Okay, the same area can be computed through line integral also. That is half of integral line integral over c x dy minus y dx. Whenever you are integrating over a simple closed curve, that means you have to use closed symbol, circle symbol. If you are using circle symbol, means what? You are integrating over a closed curve. Okay, so you can compute the area through this formula also. Make a note of it. Okay. So again, area of ellipse is derived through this formula. This you can go through. So path independence, just now we discussed. So all these things can be summarized through the form of a tree diagram. The general problem is finding the line integral, work integral over a curve C. This, okay, this can be done typically in different ways. So I have given the best method Okay, so problem is which method is to choose. Okay, that can be decided through this tree diagram. First, you check whether the field is conservative field or non-conservative field. What is the test to check whether it is conservative or not?
Curl of F.
Curl F bar. If curl F bar is 0 bar, you would say that it is conservative. If it is non-zero, you will say it is non-conservative. If it is conservative field, if it is a closed curve, in a conservative field, line integral over a simple closed curve is going to be 0. If it is an open curve, because it is a conservative field, there will be a potential function. Using the potential function, find out this value through, because the line integral is path independent. So this can be computed through phi of v minus phi of a. What is phi called? What is phi called?
Scalar.
Potential function. Phi is scalar function. Everyone will say, but because it is a because you are writing f bar is del phi. Phi is called a potential, scalar potential. Okay, so that is the case for, so whether it is open or closed, if it is a conservative field, you can compute in this method. But if it is a non-conservative field, you just ask yourself whether the curve given is space curve or plane curve. If it is a space curve, you give the parametric representation of the curve. This you will see in the problem. Using parametric representation, you convert everything in terms of t, then use this definite integral formula to compute this value. So for a space curve, don't worry whether it is open or closed. Always use this formula whenever, as long as this is a space curve. If it is a plane curve, ask yourself whether it is open or closed. Because it will plane curve and it is a closed curve, simply you can apply Green's theorem. Convert this line integral into double integral and apply Green's theorem. Okay. And if it is an open curve, okay, and then eliminate write x in terms of y or y in terms of x, eliminate the variable and write down the, find out the value of the line integral. Okay, so this is the overall picture of the different ways of finding the line integral. Okay, so this is a very good tree diagram which you can note down in your notebook, all of you. Okay, so next one is about surface integral. Okay, so again like piecewise smooth curves, we are going to see piecewise smooth surfaces. So surfaces can be like this, spheres or ellipsoids or cuboids or hemispheres. Okay, so smooth surface means where the direction of the normal is changing continuously. Piecewise smooth curve is composed of finitely many smooth curves. For example, if you take a cube, it is composed of 6 smooth curves, 6 planes. Okay, and prism 5 planes, like that. Okay, like similar to line integral 1 gives the length, surface integral 1 gives the surface area. Okay, so surface integral is nothing but integrating over a surface. Line integral is nothing but integrating over a curve. Surface integral is integrating over a surface. Okay, so these are a few examples of these surfaces in which this is a smooth surface, piecewise smooth, piecewise smooth, piecewise smooth, piecewise smooth surface. Okay, how to find out? So a special case of surface integral is called flux. Okay, here see f is a scalar function. F bar is a vector function, n cap is a vector function, f bar dot n cap is a scalar function. What is n cap? N cap is the outward normal vector, unit outward normal vector to the surface. You know how to find out unit outward normal to the surface. General surface is denoted like this as a relation between x, y, z, which is phi of x, y, z equal to c. What is this surface called in? What is this actually called? This surface called? In the last class I said, this is actually called an equation of this form. Phi of x, y, z equal to c called?
Family of surface.
What is the I gave a particular name to that. See, if C is a constant, that represents a surface. If C is an arbitrary constant, a family of surfaces. But those surfaces in vector calculus, we call them as
level surface.
Level surfaces. Okay. So all these are all level surfaces. Okay. So how to find out a unit normal vector on the level surface? By using the formula del phi by mod del phi. What is the formula? N cap is del phi by mod del phi, where phi is the surface equation. Okay, So n cap is outward normal vector, which is going away from the surface, not coming into the surface, which is going away from the surface. So f bar dot n ds is given by dA by n bar dot p bar. N bar is the outward normal vector. P cap is the unit normal vector on the projection. Okay, so when surface is there, its projection can be taken on xy plane or yz plane or zx plane. Okay, I said in detail. Okay, if you take a sphere, its projection on xy plane is, what is the projection of a sphere on xy plane?
Circle. Region.
Circular region.
region.
Because you are not getting a circle, you are getting a shadow, complete shadow, right? You are getting a circular region. So that circular region is same when you are projecting on xy plane or yz plane or zx plane. Okay, but if you take a cylinder, its projection of a cylinder on xy plane is, what is the projection of a cylinder on xy plane?
Circular region.
Circular region. Whereas in xy plane, zy plane,
Rectangular region.
rectangular region, and yz plane also
Rectangular region.
rectangular region. Therefore, so where you are taking the projection is also important, because when you change the projection, when you change the coordinate plane, the shape of the projection may change. Therefore, limits may change. Because for a rectangular region, all the limits are going to be constants. For a circular region, limits, one pair of the limits will be variables. Okay, so you have to decide on which region you have to take the projection. Okay, always remember, when you are taking the projection of a surface on a region, make sure that the surface is completely on one side of the plane. It should not be on either side. If it is on either side, you have to cut the surface into two parts. Okay, so either it should be above the xy plane or should be below the xy plane. Okay, if it is above and below, then above the xy plane you find out separately, below xy plane you find out separately, then add. Is that okay? So make sure, see, so location of the surface and kind of surface, its projection, everything is important. Unless you visualize the surface three-dimensionally, it is not possible to find out the surface integral correctly. Is that okay? So if you are taking, so what is p cap? P cap is the unit normal vector and the projection. This projection can be taken on xy plane, yz plane, or zx plane. If you are taking the projection on xy plane, then the p cap will be k bar. P cap will be k bar. If you are taking an xz plane, its normal vector will be j bar. If you are taking an yz plane, its normal vector can be I bar. So p bar is I bar or j bar or k bar, depends on where you are taking the projection. So we are taking the projection on xy plane. This is going to be the formula, because this becomes dA becomes dy dx. dA becomes dy dx. If you are taking on yz plane, dy by dx becomes dy dz. If you are taking on xz plane, dA becomes dx dz. What is the normal vector on xz plane? J bar. What is the normal vector on xy plane? K bar.
A bar.
What is the normal vector on yz plane? I bar.
I bar.
Is that okay? And f bar dot n bar contains three variables, x, y, z. But here we are integrating with respect to x and y only. So z variable you have to eliminate. How do you eliminate z variable? If you see z here, z you eliminate through surface equation. You have a relation between x, y, z, no? Okay, eliminate z using the surface equation. Similarly, if you are writing this form, there should not be y variable. If you see y variable here, eliminate y using this surface equation. Similarly here, there should not be any x. If you see x here, eliminate that x using this surface equation. That's it. So once you have this expression, okay, you have to write down the limits. Where you have to write down the limits? By looking at the projection. Okay, so see the shape of the projection, accordingly you write down the limits. So this is a surface integral, this is a double integral. You see dA, this is ds. So this is a formula to convert surface integral to what is that? Surface integral to double integral. Okay, this is a typical example, demonstration to find out the surface integral. Okay, f bar is given, surface is given. What kind of surface it is? Upper hemisphere. Why it is upper hemisphere? Z greater than or equal to 0. If z less than or equal to 0 is given, lower hemisphere. Z greater than or equal to 0 means upper hemisphere. Okay. Now find out the unit normal vector to this surface. So phi is this x square plus y square plus z square equal to 1. What is unit normal vector formula? Del phi by mod del phi. So you will get a unit normal vector like this. And find out f bar dot n bar. F bar is given, n bar is given, f bar dot n bar is a scalar x, y, z. And you take the projection of the surface on xy plane. What is the projection of upper hemisphere on xy plane? Circular region. You see the green one, the green shadow region. So this is 3-dimensional view. This is the 2-dimensional view. Okay. So so you are taking the projection on xy plane. So what is the unit normal vector on a projection on xy plane? Unit normal vector p bar is k bar. So n bar dot k bar is n bar dot k bar is z. What is modulus of z? Why modulus of z is z?
Because z is greater than or
Because
equal.
z is greater than or equal to 0. Suppose your surface is you are integrating over a lower hemisphere. Then z will be less than or equal to 0. Then modulus of z will be
Minus
Z.
minus z. That's why before removing the brackets, see where the surface is, above the xy plane or below the xy plane. Accordingly, you have to take plus z or minus z. Okay. So you just dump everything in the formula. F bar dot n bar is 3xyz. Okay. dy dx by modulus n bar dot is z. Okay. So don't eliminate z here itself. Sometimes because we may be able to cancel out. So we don't need to use the surface equation. After cancellation also, if some variable is, third variable is there, then use your surface equation. So rest is your techniques, your knowledge of double integration only. Okay, you have to double integrate over a circular region. And I told several times, whenever you are integrating over a circular arc or a circular boundary, instead of integrating over a in a Cartesian form, you convert Cartesian to polar coordinates. So when you can convert Cartesian to polar coordinates, integration will be easier. Cartesian to polar is x equal to r cos theta, y equal to r sin theta. dy dx becomes r dr d theta. And for r and theta limits, always start from origin. Draw a ray which is passing through the region. See where it is entering and leaving through the region. Entering value is going to be lower limit. And it is always leaving through the circle. On circle, what is r value? 1. Because radius of a circle is 1. So r varies from 0 to 1. And it is a complete circle. Because it is a complete circle, theta varying from 0 to 2 pi. Rotate this ray to cover the entire region. You understand? Suppose if it is only a semicircular region, upper semicircular region, what will be theta values?
0 to pi.
0 to pi. Is that okay? If it is only 3/4 of a circle, then 0 to
pi by 2.
3 pi by 2, 3/4.
3/4. Okay.
If it is only 1/4, 0 to pi by 2. Always go in a anti-clockwise direction. Is that okay? So whenever you have a circular region or circular arc, convert that Cartesian form to polar coordinates and simply integrate, you will get a value. Okay. See, same thing. Just to have a better understanding, I took lower hemisphere. Again, its projection is circular region. Here, I replaced mod z with minus z. Then everything else is same. Okay. But okay, right. Okay, so this is another problem. So similarly, I said if the surface is on either side of the xy plane, I said you have to partition into two parts, right? Upper hemisphere is one part, lower hemisphere is another part. Find out on this surface integral, find out this surface integral, add these two, then you will get the total surface integral. You cannot find out the entire surface integral when it is on either side of this xy plane. That's why I partitioned this into two parts. And unfortunately both values are 0 in this case, so final answer is 0. Sometimes it may be 2 or 3. You may get non-zero values also. Okay, again this is some see, again 3-dimensional visualization is very much important. Okay, so what is this? This is a part of the sphere which is in the first octant. See, where S is the unit sphere which is in the first octant. Okay, you just cut a ball, an orange into 8 pieces. You take the 1/8 part. Okay, that is how it look like. If it is in the first octant, what is its projection on xy plane? It is only 1/4 of the circular region. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
So this understanding you should have. Otherwise, no one can do anything. Okay. So once you realize this, then remaining is just this formula application. Do it, and because again one of the arc is circular arc, convert into polar coordinates. In this case, theta varying from 0 to pi by 2. See here, theta varying from 0 to pi by 2. Here I did not write 0 to pi by 2. It is erased. 0 to pi by 2. Simple integration. Okay. Again, some different problems are discussed here. Okay, so I think all these problems you can go through. So different situations. Okay, I think if the surface is a closed surface, if the curve is a closed curve, we have a theorem called Green's theorem. Similarly, if a surface is a closed surface, we have a theorem called Gauss divergence theorem. We have a theorem called Gauss divergence theorem. Where did I mention that? No, here. I think here. I think I mentioned a theorem called see. For a this is a 4 surfaces. Okay, you have to evaluate this on 4 surfaces. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a I don't know. This is pyramid prism. So this is instead of finding 4 surfaces and find out the surface integral, you can convert this surface integral into triple integral, and with single evaluation you can get it. So what the surface integral, what the theorem says, triple integral del dot f bar dv equal to double integral del surface integral f bar dot n bar ds. Okay, so you know how to take the triple integral del dot f bar. When f bar is given, you know how to compute divergence. Take the first component, differentiate with respect to x, second component differentiate with respect to y, third component differentiate with respect to z. Okay, then divergence 1 plus 2y. This 1 plus 2y you have to integrate over this region. Okay, so for that dv can be written in 6 orders: dz, dx, dy, dz, dy, dx, dz, dx, dy, and so on. Default order is we take it as dz, dx, dy. Similarly, always remember whenever you are integrating with respect to one variable, that limits will be in terms of the remaining variables. In this case, z limits must be in terms of x and y. X limits must be in terms of y. Y limits will be constants. Here you have to write down the z limits. Next you have to write down the x limits. Next you have to write down the y limits. Okay. So whatever the variable limits you want, then you have to draw a line parallel to that variable. So for z limits, I have to draw a line parallel to z axis. So this is z axis. Always start from the projection. Okay. This solid region projection is the triangular region in xy plane. Start from the projection, draw a line parallel to z axis. It is starting from z equal to 0 to it is leaving through inclined plane. It is leaving through the inclined plane. So on the plane, what is z value? 6 minus 2x minus y by 2. 6 minus 2x minus y by 2. Then remaining x and y limits you have to take it on the projection. This projection is a triangular region. So for x limits you have to draw a line parallel to x-axis. This is x-axis. Draw a line parallel to x-axis. So then so this line equation is 2x plus y equal to 6. So x limits is going to be y minus 6 minus y by 2. 6 minus y by 2. And y limits are going to be y varies from 0 to 6. Y varies from 0 to 6. So once you have the limits, once you have the integrand, so this evaluation is a repeated application of the integral only. When you are integrating with respect to one variable, you have to treat the remaining variables as constants. So 2y integration is 2yz, one integration is z. So I have separated the integrals here and then integrated. Why? What is the advantage of separating the integrals? Because double integral 1 gives the volume. Double integral 1 gives the volume, and this is nothing but a tetrahedron. Tetrahedron volume is ABC by 6, 1 by 6 times ABC. So I used that formula to compute this, and for this I computed using the limits. Okay, so the final answer you will get it as 36, and this is a very good problem, very important problem also. So just go through this. Okay, so instead of using so similarly, this is also an important problem. So outward normal vector, for this outward normal vector is k bar. For this outward normal vector is minus k bar. Don't use del phi by mod del phi. As long as planes are parallel to coordinate planes, you just manually look at the surface and find out the outward normal vector. For this surface, outward normal vector is positive y direction, that is j bar, and this is negative y direction, that is minus j bar. And for ABCD, outward normal vector is I bar. For OGFE, outward normal vector is minus I bar. Okay. So you may be asked to verify Gauss divergence theorem. That means you have to find out 6 surface integrals and add 6 surface integrals. Then find out the triple integral del dot f bar dv over the rectangular parallel pipe. Then show that these two values are same. Okay. That is verification of Gauss divergence theorem. Similarly, you may be asked to verify Green's theorem. That means you have to find out line integral, you have to find out double integral, show that both are equal. Then that is called verification of Green's theorem. So this verification of Green's theorem, verification of Gauss divergence theorem will be for full marks, 12 marks or 14 marks, whatever the upper mark is there. That because solving this problem will take so much of time. Okay, so just go through the problems. So that is what the Gauss divergence theorem says. If you have a vector function defined in a solid region D, which is bounded by a closed surface. Okay, which is bounded by a closed surface. This Gauss divergence theorem should be applied only for a closed surface. Okay, where D is the volume inside the closed surface. Okay, Green's theorem to be applied over a closed curve. Gauss divergence theorem to be applied over a closed surfaces. Then it says surface integral can be computed with the triple integral. Okay, and different problems. These are all different problems. Just go through. Okay, so this unless you have the three-dimensional view, it is not possible to do. So just go through it. And rotation, after taking the projection, see the orientation of the curve also. Okay. Okay, that's why to have the clarity, I have shaded this region. This is the surface, this is the boundary. This is the last important theorem called Stokes theorem. Stokes theorem to be applied on an open surface. Whenever you have an open surface, its boundary is going to be a simple closed curve. What Stokes theorem says, surface integral over S is nothing but a line integral over the simple closed curve. So it is not surface integral f bar dot n bar, but it is del cross f bar dot n bar. It says del surface integral curl f bar dot n bar is nothing but line integral over C f bar dot dr bar. What is C? C is a simple closed curve which is oriented with respect to S. That means when you are walking along the boundary, your surface must be to your left hand side. That is the positive orientation. See here. So it can be upper surface or lower hemisphere or upper hemisphere. So we have typically three theorems. Okay, Stokes theorem, Gauss divergence theorem, and Green's theorem. But this Stokes theorem is a generalization to Green's theorem. Why? Because okay, when that surface is on xy plane, Stokes theorem becomes Green's theorem in xy plane. If that surface is on xz plane, this Stokes theorem becomes Green's theorem in xz plane. If the surface is on yz plane, that is nothing but Green's theorem in yz plane. Therefore, you have three versions of Green's theorem: Green's theorem in xy plane, Green's theorem in yz plane, Green's theorem in xy plane. Okay, xz plane. Okay. So where this surface, whether it is in xy plane or yz plane or zx plane, okay. So this surface can be in space also. If it is in the space, you have to apply Stokes theorem, and the Stokes theorem becomes Green's theorem if the surface is lying on the coordinate plane. Okay, and this is some example verification of Stokes theorem. You find out the surface integral, you find out the line integral, verify that these two are same. Okay, that is what I have demonstrated here. Just go through this material. Okay, so with this, I think this line integration, this vector integral calculus is also over. Is it okay? Any doubts? Yeah, any doubts? Just ask me. Is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Wait. 31. So I'll